Asset Disposal Regulations Legal Notice number 69 of 2020, laid on the table of the House June 25th, Thursday 2020, pursuant to the provisions of Section 180 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015, approves the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Regulations 2020, published as Legal Notice number 69 of 22nd of April 2020. Also, in the order of National Assembly business this afternoon, the Leader of Majority, there will be a resumption of the debates by a bill by Leader of Majority on the Refugees Bill, National Assembly's Bill number 62 of 2019. Also, a bill in the second reading, the Care and Protection of Older Members of the Society, Senate Bill number 17 of 2018. The bill is by the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. The Chairpersons of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, the House will be considering and debating a bill on the Preservation of Human Dignity and Enforcement of Economic and Social Rights Bill, Senate Bill number 27 of 2018. There will equally be a resumption of a debate on the County Law Compliance and Enforcement Bill, Senate Bill number 25 of 2018. The bill by the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs is currently in its second readings. Order number 7. Questions. A variety of questions will be filled before the various departmental committees. Nominated Member of Parliament Cecily Mbarire will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Youth and Gender that could the Cabinet Secretary provide a detailed report on the cases of teenage pregnancies reported across the country since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic period that led to the closure of schools and other learning institutions. What urgent steps has the Ministry taken to ensure protection and safety of all children in the country? And could the Cabinet Secretary assure the committee that legal action will be taken against the persons responsible for these acts in accordance with the Children's Act and Sexual Offences Act? Has the Ministry put in place any program to support the said children during the pregnancies, to the delivery of their babies and beyond, and most importantly, reintegrating them to the society and ensure that they continue with their schooling? Member of Parliament for Teso South, Honorable Godfrey Omuse, to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Development and Public Works, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the construction of Busia Alope bypass in Teso South constituency that has stalled despite having been funded, and when the works are expected to resume? Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures the Ministry has put in place to ensure the construction of the said road is resumed and completed on time? On your screens is the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justin Muturi, making his way into the chamber. I'll hand you now over for the live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing. Good afternoon.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in wisdom and goodness have appointed the office of parliaments and leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor as your servants whom you've been pleased to court the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests are committed to our charge. Amen. begin.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
I'll be making communication after order number 7.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The chairman of the Select Committee on Implementation, Honorable Olekenta. Honorable Olekenta.
At the House, today, Tuesday, June 30th, 2020, afternoon sitting. Report of the Select Committee on Implementation on submissions from the stakeholders regarding implementation status of legislations, petitions, and resolutions passed by the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Once again, Honorable Olekenta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Select Committee on Implementation on its consideration of submissions from stakeholders regarding the implementation status of legislations, petitions, and resolutions passed by the House laid on the table at House today, Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First question by private notice by the Honorable Mbarire. The Honorable Mbarire. Next, question by the member for Wundanyi, Honorable Mashako. The Honorable Danson Mashako. I've just seen the member, but he has gone to some other place. Next question by the member for West Mugirango, the Honorable Kemosi. Put your count. It's not showing. You don't see the number? Come to the dispatch.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to ask my question directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and the Coordination of National Government. Honorable Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a report regarding the program of implementation of the Kazi Mtaani initiative by the national government, indicating the constituencies where the initiative has been rolled out and the total number of youths who have been engaged under the initiative in each constituency? Part 2, why have some constituencies, including West Mugirango constituency, not benefited under the initiative? I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Kazi Mtaani.
Question to be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Next question by the member for Teso South. The Honorable Omuse. The member for Teso South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to ask the question number 107/2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. Roman 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the construction of Busia Junction B1, Alupe Junction C43 bypass in Teso South constituency has stalled despite having been funded, and when are the works expected to resume? Roman 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary also explain the measures the ministry has put in place to ensure that the construction of the said road is resumed and completed on time? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question to be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. For the second time, question by private notice, the Honorable Cecily Mbarire.
Get it here. Do you have a copy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you for your indulgence. I rise to seek a question by private notice to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Welfare. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a detailed report on the cases of teenage pregnancies reported across the country since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic period that led to closure of schools and other learning institutions? 2, what urgent steps is the ministry taking to ensure protection and safety of all children in the country? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary assure the committee that legal action will be taken against the persons responsible for these acts in accordance to the Children's Act and the Sexual Offences Act? 4, has the ministry put in place any program to support the said children during the pregnancies, to the delivery of the babies and beyond, and most importantly, reintegrating them back to society and ensuring that they continue with their schooling? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further question to be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. For the second time, question number 084 by the member for Wundanyi, Honorable Dan Mwashako.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, naomba msamaha kwa kuchelewa kidogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, nauliza swali kwa Waziri wa Utalii na Huduma za Wanyama wa Pori. Je, waziri amepata ripoti kuhusu tumbili wanaosababisha hasara kubwa na uharibifu katika eneo bunge la Wundanyi? Pili, ni hatua ipi waziri anachukua kukomesha mgogoro kati ya watu na wanyama na hasa kudhibiti idadi ya tumbili walio eneo bunge la Wundanyi ambao wanasababisha hasara kubwa na uharibifu wa mimea, hivyo kuathiri vibaya kipato muhimu cha watu wa eneo bunge langu? Mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika, je, ni mipango gani wizara inafanya kuwalipa fidia wakulima ambao wametiwa hasara ya mimea na vyakula vyao kuharibiwa na wanyama hawa? Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Swali litajibiwa mbele ya kamati ya kidara ya mazingira na mali ya asili. Next segment, statements. First request is by the nominated member, the Honorable Professor Jacqueline Oduor.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 42C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding sale of illicit brews to underage youth. Honorable Speaker, COVID-19 lockdown has brought about some unprecedented effect to the society and especially to underage youth below the age of 18 who are currently at home due to closure of learning institutions. It has been noted that the underage youth are accessing illicit brews being sold in certain homestays in rural areas across the country. Honorable Speaker, increased cases of child abuse and exposure to violence due to the trauma and uncertainties during this period of COVID-19 pandemic have been reported. With the bars in market centers closed down, people are sheltering at village dens in known homesteads which sell illicit brews and which continue to operate with impunity and total disregard of law and the COVID-19 guidelines. Honorable Speaker, noting that COVID-19 pandemic has shifted the weight of law enforcement, specifically the administration, security officers and chiefs, to focusing on adherence of COVID-19 precautionary measures. Hence, the crackdown on illicit brews has been slowed down, and dealers are freely conducting sale of illicit brews more robustly. The situation is aggravated by the extremely potent and cheap alcohol sachets, for instance, Simba Waragi, being imported into the country through porous borders from neighboring countries. Honorable Speaker, as a result, it has now become the norm for underage children to patronize these dens and to access their illicit brews, even in the presence of older women and men, causing tremendous harm to boy and girl children alike. These children are becoming addicted to the brews, which will have long-term effects to their lives. In addition, many girls are being abused and impregnated. Therefore, we are staring at the beginning of a shadow pandemic that is threatening to destroy the future of our country. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. 1. What steps is the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government taking to curb sale of illicit brews in homesteads in rural areas and informal settlements? 2. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that illicit brews are not sold to underage youth? 3. What measures are in place to stop the smuggling of the sachet Simba Waragi into Kenya from other neighboring countries? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chair, Honorable Koinange.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And maybe if we can get about 3 weeks, and I think the Honorable Member has given us a very good background in regard to the issues of alcohol in the country at this time of this corona pandemic. So 3 weeks will be good so we can come up with a very good report covering all the areas that she has mentioned. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Next request is by the member for Maragua, the Honorable Mary Wamawa Jiroge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to lead this statement. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Health regarding the home births and routine immunization for children during the COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable Speaker, while appreciating the measures the Ministry of Health has taken to contain the possibly bring to an end the spread of the coronavirus disease, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, in the country, patient and expectant mothers have been reluctant to visit health institutions for fear of contracting the COVID-19 disease. Honorable Speaker, expectant mothers are now opting for private midwives to assist on home births and post-cares. It is of concern that traditional midwives have never been endorsed by the government despite their existence. Further, the pre-existing crisis may draw more women to give birth at their homes, and as a result, more infants and young children will miss the pediatric appointment for routine immunization and other health-related matters. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson Departmental Committee on Health to address on the following. 1, what is the status of the hospital visits, vaccination of children and births by expectant mothers as compared to the same period last year? 2, what measures has the relevant ministry taken to support expectant mothers who opt to give birth at home, including access to medical assistance or referral services after birth? 3, what is the status of the routine immunization services countrywide during the COVID-19 period, and which immunization services are being provided? And lastly, 5, what step has the relevant ministry taken to improve the immunization coverage to children during the COVID-19 pandemic period? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Health, the Honorable Sabina Chege. The Chair is absent, not desiring to be present. The request will be presented through the Office of the Leader of the Majority Party.
Thank you.
Next request is by the member for Voi, the Honorable Jonas Mulolwa. Member for Voi, yes. Raise your hand. Why were you sitting there? You knew you were going to. You just come and sit just like that, Honorable Mulolwa.
Is that for me?
Now it is on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for statement from the Chairperson of Departmental Committee on Education, Research regarding distribution of funds under the Infrastructure Funds program in secondary schools. Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Education launched the infrastructure program with the objective of supporting development of physical and instrumental facilities in secondary schools in the country. Regrettably, the allocation and distribution of these funds from the program to schools has not been undertaken in a predictable, fair, and equitable manner. This inequality has resulted in poor quality education, since most of the schools, particularly those in marginalized areas and the semi-arid areas, the urban poor and the rural areas, are not able to access basic facilities that ought to enable them support the critical government target of achieving 100% transition of learners from primary to secondary schools. Honorable Speaker, it is on this account that these concerns that I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the following. One, what is the status of reimbursement of infrastructure funds to secondary schools across the constituencies, including the beneficiaries since 2015 to date? Number two, what measures have been put in place to ensure that these funds under the program, the said program, are dispersed in predictable, fair, and equitable manner? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The statement will be given by the Committee on Education and also the chairperson. The channel will request through the Office of the Leader Majority to communicate to the Ministry, to the Departmental Committee. Thank you, Honorable Lolo. Next, statement request by the member for Lugali. Lugali, the Honorable Ayub Safula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statement regarding disbandment of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund in the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, in brackets 2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock regarding disbandment of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, SFRT, in the country. Honorable Speaker, the Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund is a fund established under the Public Finance Management Regulation of 2015 with its main function to stabilize food supply and price in the country, arrange for procurement, storage and sale of food commodities, maintain adequate strategic food reserve in physical stocks and cash equivalent at any one given time, and mobilize resources to support strategic food reserve and related activities. Honorable Speaker, it is great concern that the government has disbanded the SFRT and ordered a further restructuring of National Cereals and Produce Board to take up SFR role. This has disadvantaged farmers on matters relating to imports. Further, Kenya is facing a serious food shortage owing to the locust invasion, coronavirus, lockdowns, floods, and unavoidable weather conditions. The Strategic Food Reserve sold all its stock, but it's yet to restock because the board was not given a go-ahead to buy maize. Further, the country had expected to harvest 40 million bags of maize, but less than 30 million bags were realized last season. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock, to address on the following. One, explain the circumstance that led to the disbandment of Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund. Two, explain how the government will manage matters tasked with ensuring the rotation of stocks at food reserve, fundraising, monitoring, grain market price, and food quality standards along food reserve supply chain in the absence of the Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund. Three, look into any possible way of restoring the SFRT Fund Stock Board to do the following functions: strengthening and making it corporate, with a CEO of the fund being the fund administrator reporting to the board. And finally, transferring to the National Treasury or the Office of the President, as it's a fund for strategic food security, which is a matter of national security, as it coordinates with several government ministries, state departments that are beyond crop development and agriculture research to avoid undue dominance of maize in food conservation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, statement will be responded to through the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. The member for Narok, Honorable Soipan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, 2C, I seek a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources regarding compensation for human-wildlife conflict in Narok County and other parts of the country. Honorable Speaker, more than 65% of Kenya's wildlife roam freely from parks and reserves to community and private lands. Wildlife is a national heritage, an asset owned by all Kenyans, and more than 75% of our tourism is wildlife-based, earning Kenya colossal amounts in revenue annually, contributing the second highest source of foreign exchange and job creation for Kenyans. On the other hand, wildlife has become a walking nightmare and curse to host communities in Narok and certainly other affected counties. Countless families continue to lose both loved ones and their hard-earned livelihoods due to the rampant human-wildlife conflict. According to statistics, in a 3-year period between 2015 and 2017, more than 500 persons were killed and more than 3,221 injured, during which only 10% of the reported cases were compensated. In Narok County, the statistics are even more dismal, with the last payments ever made for death dating back to 2014, for less than only 10% of the reported cases, while no single case of loss of property, livestock, and crops has ever been paid since 2013, when the Wildlife Act was passed. Just a week ago, a 15-year-old Form 2 student from Motorok, a village in Majimoto, Narosra Ward in Narok South, one Saruni Naingisa, sadly became part of these statistics when he was trampled to death by an elephant while he watered his family's tomato shamba at 10 a.m. The Wildlife Act 2013, Section 25, provides for compensation for personal injury or death or damage to property caused by wildlife, certainly clearly stipulating the amount and procedure for payments to affected families. Yet we continue to see a total lack of commitment on the part of the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife and the Kenya Wildlife Service to see through prompt response and compensation for those affected. Anytime there is death or injury to a wild animal, the Kenya Wildlife Service moves with lightning speed. But where human life is lost, we see total disregard on the part of the Kenya Wildlife Service for the right to human life. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the following. Can the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, 1, provide a detailed report on the current status of compensation for reported cases of death, loss of property, livestock, and crops as a result of human-wildlife conflict by county? And 2, report on the amount of compensation funds budgeted in the current financial period and provide the compensation plan, again, by county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I don't see the chairman. Oh, the Honorable Karega Byuki. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really want to sympathize with Honorable Soipan and other honorable members because the issues of human-wildlife conflict have really caused a lot of problems in the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my committee have been seized with this matter of human-wildlife conflict through questions and petitions. We have also received a question from Honorable Mashako. And Mr. Speaker, I want to make an undertaking that we are going to prosecute all these issues within the next 2 weeks. But Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that the bigger challenge which we have is the budgetary allocation to the issue to do with human-wildlife conflict. The next financial, Mr. Speaker, 2020-2021, we have an allocation of only 500 million against confirmed cases of more than 6 billion, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as we prosecute this issue, I would really also like to urge the honorable members that we really consider doing further funding to the State Department of Wildlife so that we can be able to mitigate the issues of human-wildlife conflict. Mr. Speaker, I want to make an undertaking that within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to issue a very, very comprehensive statement analyzing the payment done to date in Narok County and all the other parts of the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Sergeant at Arms, there are a total of 32 seats where members had been allocated who appear to have decided to go to the villages or to the streets. So you can invite all the other members who may be desirous of coming into the chamber, 32 of them. Honorable Coril, was yours a statement or a petition?
Mr. Speaker, mine was a petition.
You see, that's why I thought you did not understand the procedures of the House, because when you were running up here to come and tell me about something, we'd already passed that order. But because I had already approved it, I will allow.
Thank you.
I'll allow you to go. We go back to that order number 4 for you to read out your petition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for intervening. I'm reading this petition, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the residents of Sanfale, Royal Park, KMA, Shalom Estate, and Forest View in Langata constituency. Mr. Speaker, I will read verbatim. We, the undersigned, residents of the Republic of Kenya, and residents of Sanfale Phase 1, 2, and 3, Royal Park Estate, KMA Estate, Shalom Estate, Forest View Estate, within Mugumoini Ward of Langata constituency in Nairobi, do petition the National Assembly under the provision of Article 119 of the Constitution that grants the Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, and Article 94(2) of the Constitution that grants the National Assembly powers to resolve issues of concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, residents wish to draw the attention of the National Assembly to the following: that we are the lawful owners of all property situated in the said estates, having acquired them for value. Within the said estate, there are approximately 2,000 titles that have been issued by the Ministry of Land, with over 90% currently occupied by approximately 6,000 households, with over 20,000 people living in them. Within the said estate, there are also schools, churches, hospitals, mosques, prison department, dog unit section, and other amenities. Within this parcel of land is situated St. Mary's Mission Hospital that treats over 2,000 residents of Langata and Kibra constituency per day, and patients referred from other hospitals, especially mothers and baby section of the hospital, which is, if demolished, will cause untold loss and suffering to the residents of these constituencies. The government has also provided common utility services to the property, including water, sewage, electricity, and paved roads, among others. Mr. Speaker, that all developments within the estate underwent the necessary approvals from the Department of Physical Planning, County Government of Nairobi, and all the requisite building approvals were granted. Routine inspection of the said structures were done by the government and county government departments such as National Construction Authority. A substantial number of the residents developed the property through bank finance, SACCOs, public sector mortgages, schemes such as Central Bank of Kenya Mortgage Scheme, Parliamentary Service Commission, Public Service Commission, while others acquired through their retirement benefit. Mr. Speaker, that the residents have had quiet possession of the respective property for over 20 years, and a range of transactions over these properties have taken place. Some have charged the financial institutions, some have sold, and others have subdivided as allowed by law. We have paid duties, taxes, levies to the Government of Kenya for approval of various activities related to our suites parcels. The County Government of Nairobi continuously receive land rates from our respective parcels, which we have paid dutifully. In a strange surprise, Mr. Speaker, and turn of events, on 2nd June 2020, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for Environment and Forestry has made media pronouncements highlighting that the land where our properties are situated within Ngong Forest has threatened to even release wild animals. I'll repeat that. In a strange surprise and turn of events, on around 2nd of June 2020, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for Environment and Forestry has made media pronouncements highlighting that the land where the properties are situated within the Ngong Forest and has threatened to even release wild animals to our estate. The unwarranted threat by the Cabinet Secretary has been followed by continuous aerial and physical surveillance of the area by the KFS, Kenya Forestry Services team, which the latter accompanied by a verbal warning to the security guards of the said team, expressing the intention to fence off the main gate of the estates with the intention to deny residents access to their premises or fence in the residence. The verbal threats by the Cabinet Secretary and the KFS have been captured and highlighted by both print and media and electronic media house, thus questioning the legality of our titles documents which the government validly issued to us. These threats have caused a lot of anxiety among us, the residents of these estates, and thus interfering with the quiet enjoyment of our property. Mr. Speaker, the resident wished to inform the National Assembly that vide legal notice number 44, carried in the Kenya Gazette number 16 of 1998, dated 23rd March 1998, the then Minister of Environment, Mr. Lotodo, altered the boundary of the Ngong Forest Reserve so as to exclude the land occupied by the Sun Valley Phase 1, 2, and 3, Royal Park Estate, KMA Estate, Shalom Estate, and Forest View Estate. Boundary Plan number 175, stroke 368, dated 10th December 1997, showing excision of approximately 53 hectares from Ngong Road Forest. After Gazette, a survey map was issued by the Survey of Kenya Office delineating the boundaries of this estate, showing that property LR 23256 is subject of the legal notice referred to above. Various grants executed by the President of the Republic of Kenya granting the property in question to the Kenya Building Society Limited, the original owners of the property. Out of this excision, the government, through the Ministry of Land, has issued over 2,000 title deeds to the residents of this estate. Neither the Ministry of Land and Physical Planning nor the Ministry of Environment has taken any step to challenge the validity or otherwise of the titles, and no information has been shared with the residents impugning the validity of the titles, impugning the validity of the titles. On the contrary, the Ministry of Land has continued, and rightfully so, to allow transaction on the titles, including such as sales, charges, and subdivision where applicable. It is therefore unfortunate that the Cabinet Secretary of Environment can make such roadside declaration, recklessly impugning the validity of the title, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we wish to further point out that the government has not issued any notice to the residents addressing the issue they have raised in the media. They have always been ready to listen to the government. We also wish to indicate that the Ministry of Environment and Kenya Forestry Services have not filed any suit in court to challenge the Gazette Notice number 44 of 1998, which altered the boundaries of the forest, which in any event was published by the very ministry. We have made the best effort to have this matter addressed by the relevant authorities, all of which have failed to give any satisfactory response. None of this issue raised in this petition is pending in the court of law, constitutional, or any other legal body. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the humble petitioners pray that through the relevant committee, that the Parliament intervenes by instructing the Cabinet Secretary of Environment and Forestry to follow due process of law and get the proper information and proper maps from the ministry responsible for matters relating to land, to intervene by instructing the Cabinet Secretary of Environment and Forestry to desist forthwith from pursuing his intention of illegally reclaiming privately owned land on which the foresighted estates stand. That the Parliament intervenes to ensure that the Cabinet Secretary for Lands does protect the sanctity of title deeds the residents hold for their legally acquired land, and that the Kenya Forest Department to stop harassing and causing unnecessary anxiety to the residents of this estate. And your humble petitioners will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Junet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the petition that has been just read by the MP for Langata. Mr. Speaker, this matter is of very great national importance, Mr. Speaker. And here in Parliament is where issues of concern to the citizens are discussed, Mr. Speaker. That is why we sit here every week 3 times, 4 times, even under Corona, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that land in question is a land that has been claimed to have been forest land. But Mr. Speaker, those people who are living there, they are not, Mr. Speaker, there is a community here who are discussing the communal issues. Mr. Speaker, this issue that has been brought before the House, Mr. Speaker, through the petition, I don't want to anticipate debate, Mr. Speaker, but I just want to add that, Mr. Speaker, there are over 1,000 people who are living in that land, Mr. Speaker, formally. They are not informal, they are not shanties, they are not mabati, Mr. Speaker. These are people who have been issued with title deeds by the government of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And the petitioners in their petition claim that there was a survey plan, there was a deed plan, all documentations were given, and even the forest was degazetted by the government of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my humble request that the House takes that petition very serious, and I want to urge the Minister in charge of Environment, now that this matter is seized of this House, Mr. Speaker, until this petition is decided in one way or the other by this House, he should halt whatever action he wanted to take. He should not release the animals from the national park, as he said to those people. We don't want them to be eaten by lions, Mr. Speaker, and hyenas. Let those people, some of them, Mr. Speaker, are retirees, government retirees. Some of them are from my constituency, who have retired from different departments of the government, Mr. Speaker. They petitioned me over the weekend. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an arm of government. So once this matter has been seized by this arm of government for thorough investigation through a petition, there is no arm that is more powerful than the other. Let him wait. Let the Department of Lands investigate the matter. Let them bring their report to the House. Whichever way the House decides, we shall abide by it. But Mr.
Where is she? Who, me? Yes. Because I took him from the other podium. Oh, I see. Good afternoon, and welcome to our daily briefing on COVID-19 status in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last few weeks, we have been highlighting other diseases that compound the problem of COVID-19 that we are currently grappling with. We have observed that the disease can be severe in people with other underlying conditions. Some of these comorbidities, such as diabetes, cancer, TB, hypertension, HIV, have been part of the overall health promotion strategy of the ministry. Today, we are marking a milestone in the fight against TB in Kenya as we launch 2 important policy documents to guide our efforts in ending TB in the country. TB remains a global and national public health concern. Globally, 104 million people are infected with TB, of which nearly 1.5 million die each year. In Kenya, TB is the 5th leading cause of death. In 2019, we reported and treated 86,504 cases of TB, of which approximately 10% are children. Drug-resistant TB cases have been on the rise, with 688 such cases in the country as of 2019. Despite TB diagnosis and treatment being offered free of charge in public and faith-based facilities, not all that are infected with TB are reached and therefore do not receive the required care. This is a challenge for our TB program, and we are continuously working towards reaching all those that are infected with TB so that they can get the right care and the proper care. One of the policy documents that we are launching today speaks to the rollout of a regimen for treatment of multiple drug resistance TB that is devoid of injections, in line with the World Health Organization's call to eliminate injectables from multiple drug-resistant TB treatment regimen to improve treatment outcomes. The second policy document addresses preventive treatment of latent TB infection offered to individuals who are at risk of developing active TB. Preventive treatment has proven to be an effective intervention to curtail development of active TB disease. These two policy documents on TB are key to the ministry's strategic goal of ridding the country of TB by 2030 as envisaged in Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. At the end